Blog Talk Radio.
Choices, decisions, frustrations, and pain. Knowing I'm going to forget her someday. While I still can, I'll challenge all my loved ones, every friend, to look inside their hearts and understand that I will love them. I will love them while I still can.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks Radio. I'm Lori LeBay, the host and founder of Alzheimer's Speaks. And just to let you know a little bit about us before we jump into the show, because we always get new listeners, it's just nice for you guys to know a little bit about us. Alzheimer's Speaks is an advocacy-based company providing multiple platforms to shift our dementia care culture from crisis to comfort worldwide. We believe by joining forces, sharing knowledge, and having these everyday conversations about life with dementia that we can remove the stigmas attached to memory loss and help people who are living in the trenches take back their lives and live with purpose. Together, we can help everyone understand the true needs of this disease and what it's really like, and hopefully, in this process, remove those stigmas that isolate so many. At our core, we believe collaboratively we can win this battle against dementia. All of your clicks that you have made to share us and like us and tweak us have had a huge impact, and you're really making a difference by doing that. In fact, ShareCare and Dr. Oz recognized us as the #1 influencer online regarding Alzheimer's. So kudos to all of you for being advocates and helping spread the word. I ask for your continued support in this fashion to help raise awareness and educate individuals around the world. Social media likes and tweets really matter, so keep it up, guys. We want to continue to raise awareness by having these conversations, and who we interview here varies from people who have dementia to those who are caring for them. Like our second guest was going to be talking about a beautiful book she wrote about living and loving a spouse with dementia. We have business professionals that might be care partners, or, for example, today we're going to have the Better Business Bureau on talking about scams. We also have advocates. We have had musicians and movie directors and people riding their bikes across country. We've had researchers. So if you think that you might be a good fit, please just make a note in the chat box and let us know. Or you can always email me by going to alzheimersspeaks.com and just click on the contact button and shoot me an email. I would love to have a conversation with you. We also would love you to join the conversation here, and it's really easy. Again, you can use your chat box, or you can call in at 1-714-364-4757. That's 1-714-364-4757, and push 1 to get into my waiting room, and we can go from there. If you are new to dementia and you're looking for some support, you might want to check out Alzheimer's Disease International. They're known as ADI, and they are the association of associations around the world. And you can reach them at www.alz.co.uk. Others of you might be looking for a clinical study, and so I recommend that you go to alzheimersstudies.com to check that out as well. So let's go ahead and get started with our show today. Our first guest is Gary Jonson, and Gary is a Senior Outreach Manager for the Better Business Bureau of Minnesota and North Dakota. Gary has been associated with the Better Business Bureau since 2004, and he brings 40 years of business experience to his speaking platform. Gary is committed to the mission of the Better Business Bureau and sharing the message with seniors and other interest groups region-wide. His program of Be Wise, Be Informed, Be Empowered covers topics like scams and services that the Better Business Bureau brings to the table, as well as how to empower yourself to take action and protect yourself in today's market. So welcome, Gary.
Well, it's great to be here, Lori. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, as they say.
Yeah, finally, we survived the storms. I know a lot of people got hit really hard this weekend. So here in Minnesota, we were quite lucky that we were graced and left alone from that. So I'm anxious to have this conversation with you today because I think it's very important, and I think so many people are affected by scams, not just people with dementia, but people of all ages and all stages of life are getting hit up with this. But before we start, I always like to ask people, just so our audience has a feel, have you personally ever been touched by Alzheimer's disease, friend or family member?
You know, I have a very close friend of mine here at the Better Business Bureau. Lost her mother to early onset. I think she was like 56 years old. And Mackenzie has taken a very active role in fundraising and events and things for the Alzheimer's Association. And so, yeah, it was very hard watching her go through the experience with her mother.
Okay, great. Sorry for Mackenzie's loss. It's a tough thing, but it's rare when someone is not been touched in some form or fashion by this disease. And here at Alzheimer's Speaks, again, we're just all about trying to help people connect the dots. So again, I thank you in advance for your time today. Can you tell us? Let's start out with, who is the Better Business Bureau, and what exactly are their services that they provide?
Well, the Better Business Bureau is a nonprofit organization, and we are funded through dues that our accredited businesses pay to support the Better Business Bureau efforts. And we were the first Better Business Bureau established in the United States right here in Minnesota, and we celebrated our centennial last year. So we were the first of about 115 Better Business Bureaus throughout the U.S. and Canada. Now, although we've been around 100 years, a lot of people, maybe have a misconception about the Better Business Bureau, may think we're a government agency or a consumer advocacy group or a business-only type of an organization. But what we were founded for and what our forefathers did was wanted to set themselves apart in the marketplace, that they would agree to a code of ethics in their advertising and sales promotion. So that was how the Better Business Bureau was founded. And what we do now is provide consumer information. The purpose, check before you buy. So anyone can call the Better Business Bureau and find out about a company they're thinking about doing business with. And we also monitor charities. So if you're considering supporting an organization, we can let you know if they are licensed and are complying with the regulations, and indeed what percentage of the money that they collect goes to the cause. So the biggest part of the Better Business Bureau is to provide consumer information and build trust in the marketplace. And we also handle a complaint resolution. We are not an enforcement agency, but if you have an issue with a contractor or a company you are doing business with and are not satisfied, you can file a complaint in writing to the Better Business Bureau. That complaint then is forwarded to the business for their response. And what it does is usually help bring people together. So of those two aspects, check before you buy and maybe some help after the fact, are the main purposes of today's Better Business Bureau.
Okay, wonderful. Well, and I didn't know that Minnesota was the first one, so you learn something new every single day. I tell you, it's just kind of amazing. Can you tell us what are some of the most prevalent frauds and scams going around? I know that it varies from time to time, and I know I just get a ton of them, on my emails constantly, and also I think on the phone, people trying to scam me, giving money. But what are the most prevalent ones that your organization is seeing?
Well, and like you say, they do kind of cycle and recycle, and there are not a lot of brand new things that happen. But here at the Better Business Bureau, and we see a lot of the ones that are kind of hitting the region. And when we take a look at, our demographic, seniors as a whole, we control people over 60 years old, about 70% of the assets and wealth in this country. So that has put a big target on our back. And also the fact that we grew up in an era where we trusted people and we, kind of respected authority and just felt like we could manage our lives without being taken advantage of. And those times have seriously changed. When we look at the most prevalent scams out there affecting our group, and I'm included in that, is the grandparent scam, and that one has probably got the most notoriety, where you may get a call, Grandma, this is Tim, I'm in jail in Canada, I really need your help. And the big red flag is, please don't tell my parents or don't tell anybody, I'm so embarrassed. So the scam artists use that secrecy as, not contacting anybody else, so that, they aren't going to be influenced by another relative or something about sending money. But it plays on, our group where we want to help our grandchildren out if we can, and those types of scams, the lottery scams and the grandparent scam, for instance, took about $30 million reported out of our state in the last several years. So it's a huge, huge thing that happens every day.
Wow. That has to be, spooky, because you if you get a call like that, you do want to help. And they just know exactly how to pull at those heartstrings and to maneuver things. So your recommendation in that case is check with somebody before you move forward, and don't keep the secret, because this is
right.
Much more prevalent than you think.
Yeah, and they can be very with the information that's available on all of us in today's electronic society. I mean, they seem to have a lot of background on people and know, things about us that you wouldn't think. So cautions as to, number one, check with somebody else in the family. Make at least that call to see, because I've been into so many places where they call and their grandson is home or he's at work or those types of things. So always check. Never mail money or wire money to people that you don't know. So I raised 5 kids myself, and it wouldn't have hurt any one of them to spend one more night in jail until I could sort things out. So it would just build some character, I would think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's about learning consequences for what we do,
right.
And actions that we take. And again, but it is spooky. I've got a couple of friends, one whose mother lives down in Florida, who is, it's almost like she is on the list of scammers, and she has donated so much money, and she's invested money in terms of thinking that she's going to be helping somebody out in a business. And the daughter is just like trying to shut this down, and she's in Minnesota, and, mom is down there and doesn't want to cut her off her phone system. Any recommendations on, they've had the police involved and all kinds of things, but it's like they keep popping up over and over and over, with different scams and different ideas, and this person is just a real gentle soul and wants to help and feels financially she can, and I think has a huge target on her because of that. So any ideas for somebody, for a family in that situation?
Well, what has happened in this case, this lady has gotten on what is called a hot sheet, and that just means that, just for an example, if you answer a phone call, you get a check by your name. If you listen to the person on the other line, you get another check by your name. And if you are taken in by their offer, you get a big gold star by your name. And then your name is sold to other unscrupulous people, and you get on that treadmill where you're getting these kinds of offers and phone calls all the time. And it's the thing that we would suggest, and you can, of course, change your phone number, and how effective that is, would be short term, because these people have a way of finding things out. But that would be one of my suggestions is, to change her contact information. If she's getting them online, change your website provider or things like that. And also, they should caution the person that this is not in her best interest, that there are great charities and things to support that are legitimate, and that's, I think, about as far as we can go, because person has free will, and but changing the phone number, getting off of these lists, hanging up the phone, the most important thing. Just don't answer and don't get involved.
Okay, so that would be another one is to call people back versus entering into a conversation right away. And it's difficult. This woman in particular has early memory loss, some cognitive impairment, and so she, she doesn't even remember doing some of these things, which is very, very frustrating to the family. And they're trying to, like I said, figure out how best to protect her, and she lives in an association, in a senior community, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of support, though it sounds like quite a few people in that community are being targeted, and not that it has anything to do with the community per se. It may just have to do with the ages, and the vulnerability probably increases or is viewed as as more beneficial to to those that are targeting people for scams. Do you see people being targeted by where they live at all?
Well, yes, we do, because it's not hard to find out where senior housing is and where these associations are established. I mean, they want to bring people to them to view their facilities and so forth. And even myself, I just entered my phone number into whitepages.com, and with that phone number it shows my physical address, my home, and my wife who lives with me, and our ages. So the information is out there and available. And they really, they treat it as a job. And if someone wanted to talk to single people alone over the age between 65 and 85, they basically can generate a contact list for that very simply. And again, with the example that you gave, maybe it's time where there needs to be two people signing checks for grandma. She still has her autonomy, but there's a safeguard in place if there's another signature on any checks that go out. So I know being separated by, the north and the south here, it's maybe a little hard to do, but that way there could be some sort of check and balance in that.
Yeah, and they have done some of that, and they've actually gone to letting her use a debit card or a credit card, putting money on that, but a lot of them take credit cards too.
Yeah.
And so, that's been something pretty interesting. I mean, things that I wouldn't think that they would do that because of being traceable, but yet the police are still having a hard time tracing them, so it must be something that they have and then they flip really quickly.
They can set up blind accounts that are very hard to trace. So.
Yeah, if they would only put this much effort into a real job, how sweet would that be,
They could be very successful, but then they'd have to pay taxes.
Yep. It's too bad. You have so many people that are involved in this process, trying to outsmart them, but they have much more time because they're not working full-time jobs and taking care of families probably.
Absolutely.
And doing all the things that everyone else is doing. Now, another common one that that I personally get is I get all the time these fake emails that say either my credit card or my bank has been compromised, and to click here. And I don't do that. I know not to click there because they're wanting your password and your contact information. And I always I call and then I forward that on. But it's scary sometimes, or something that says something about your taxes. I mean, I've gotten all different types of ones where I've almost clicked, or the UPS one I got for quite a while too. You've got a package that can't be delivered, or monies that are coming to you. What do you suggest in those situations if they're online scams?
Well, and they're getting more and more prevalent too, and they look very official. I mean, the one that I saw recently was it was from the IRS, and the statement was, "We audited your 2008 tax return. We find that we owe you a refund of $680. Click on this link and put in your information, and we'll deposit that money right away today." So what they're doing, of course, is taking the money out of that account. My suggestion is, number one, never wire money or send money off to places that you don't know. And if you do have a concern, your bank, your credit card company, the Social Security system, and the IRS won't contact you in that manner. There is a site that I would like you to write down. It's called the Internet Crime Complaint Center, and it's www.ic3.gov. And that goes to the IC3.gov. Yeah, okay. It's IC3, the number 3.gov, and that goes directly to the FBI. And you may not get a response back, probably not. But what happens is, if they get enough of these things forwarded to them, and they can see which areas are being targeted, and hopefully they can start tracking ULRs and getting some resolution in stopping these people. But again, never open links that you're not that you didn't request information for, and also forward it on. You don't even have to open them; just forward to ic3.gov, and that way they're out. Yes,
Gary, I just want to clarify: is it I as in the letter, and then C as in the letter?
Yes.
Or is It's
just the three. The three indicated. Yeah. Letter I, letter C, number 3.gov.
Gotcha. Okay. I just wanted to make sure on that because I thought, with more I was thinking about it, I was like, well, it could be different. I better check. Lots of ways you could.
Well,
you
and
could
another
out.
thing online too. There's another thing to really watch out for, and that is called the romance scam, and it's picking up more and more where people may be looking for some social outlets and things like that, and and they get online and pretty soon can develop an online communication with someone, and all of a sudden there's romantic overtures, and this person is a wealthy businessman overseas and wants to come and be with this person. They feel that there's a light connection, and then it'll come to the point where he can come and be with her, but he needs $40,000 to release a shipment of his business products or his, to close a deal, and then he can come and be with that person. And it's amazing how many people get drawn into that, Mm-hmm. And so beware on these romance scams and those types of things, especially online, because you're not having a conversation, you're just chatting back and forth. And these people are very good at what they do, and there's huge dollars that are taken from people in that type of a scam.
Well, you see that on, I've seen it on 20/20 and 60 Minutes and things, and I'm single and I've tried the online dating things, and I had one guy who was just definitely a scammer, and called him on it, and of course he wasn't, and blah blah blah, and it was just bizarre. And then he ended up, my girlfriend was on this dating service as well, and all of a sudden he popped up. Same picture, different name. We ended up finding 3 different names. I reported him, to the place, and we just joked because he was talking to her, and I said, tell him Lori says hi, and to get off the site. And it was just one of those goofy things, and it was. It's really frustrating with people. But what I noticed in that particular thing, and they say this on the dating scams, which I'm sure can happen with any type of scam, was that his English would change. He used a lot of quotes and different things, but just the way he wrote and communicated, I could tell it wasn't the same person. And it almost felt like it was a group working the process, and I don't know if that's how they work or not, but that sure is how it felt.
Yeah, it could be like a boiler room situation where there's more than 1 or 2 or more people working the same scams, and whoever number comes up, you just follow what was said before,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very important, to just, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And
Mm-hmm.
again, if somebody's trying to get your personal information or requesting money, be very cautious. Talk with friends and family. Don't be isolated. And the same with, the lottery scams, which we hear so much about too. We all would like to. Well, I think I bought, I'm sure, more tickets than I needed for that last big one, and of course I didn't win, but at least I had a chance. But these people that get on lottery scams kind of get on that hot sheet too, where if you see a neighbor or a friend that's got a lot of mailers from you have won this and that, it means they probably are participating in sending money. So, number one, lotteries, out of country lotteries are illegal in the U.S., so that's a big red flag. And number 2, you would never have to pay money to win a prize. So, never send money up front to claim winnings or a prize. So, that's just a caution on the lottery scams.
Okay, and I've seen a couple of those come to my house too, and it's like, oh, you've won this, but you have to pay for shipping or something. I mean, there's just always
taxes, right?
Yep, yep. Now I've heard that there are ones for, I got one on my cell phone, and it was a text, and I'm trying to think what happened, but I pushed the wrong number, and all of a sudden I saw a fee showing up that I was being charged for, and they said, oh, well, you must have gotten this, and you must have agreed to it. And I said, well, first of all, I didn't agree to it. I couldn't get it to go away without pushing a number on my cell phone. I was so frustrated because it, froze it up almost.
Right.
And then I had to call my cell phone company, and they said, well, we'll block any third-party things because apparently that's becoming a big deal now too, where they're texting you something and asking you to participate. And it's real easy to push the wrong button, or the way they phrase the questions, you're not really even sure what you should
right.
push. To accept it. Are you seeing more of those as well?
Yes, and that'll only increase with smartphone activity and things that are going on. And again, there are some blocking devices and things that I would contact my phone provider and see if there's something that they're offering too. It even happened to me at work here one day, looking for some pictures for a brochure that I wanted to build, and I was on a site that all of a sudden froze up my terminal here at work, and our IT person basically had to buy a software patch to get things cleaned up. So there are just a lot of ways that we can be drawn in or trapped into some of these offers and things like that. And it just seems like it's hard to stay ahead of the game, because the criminals, by the time we find a way to slow them down or stop them, they're onto something else already. So, just be very cautious and even on the phone calls, the robocalls that people get, where it'll be an automated, if you don't want to hear from us, press 1 or 2, and you don't want to hear from them, so you press that number. And what that has done is told that company that, yes, this is a working phone number, and it gets answered by a person at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and that's compiled into a scam list and sold. So don't take directions. Don't think you're just hang them up, don't even bother. Get a caller ID, and if it's your friends, they'll leave you a message and you can call them back. But, they can get numbers that are, look like they're from our area code, but they could be calling from Latvia. It just doesn't, there's so many ways that they can hide their identity.
Unbelievable. I get those calls and I get so frustrated. And, what do you think about the do not call list? That doesn't really work, does it? Or
well, the do not call list works for the purpose it was intended. Legitimate businesses monitor their do not call list. So you can have, and I just got solicited on my cell phone on the reduce your credit card interest rate type thing. And first time that happened. But when the do not call registry is good for your cell phone and good for your home phone. But what it does, it doesn't shut out the unscrupulous people. Really, the people that you've done business with in the past can legitimately call you. Of course, charities can contact you, and the politicians have that opportunity because they write the laws. But as far as getting those calls, just know that it's somebody that doesn't have your best interest at heart, because legitimate businesses do monitor the do not call. and they respect that because they don't want to damage their business. But the criminals and crooks disregard it. They won't adhere to that. So if you're getting those calls, it's not in your best interest.
Okay. So with the credit card ones, because those are just constant. Again, you just don't answer the phone. I mean, more and more I'm thinking I just don't even want a home phone number anymore. Because most of what I get is scams because most people know my cell phone. But then I worry that if I get rid of that everything's just going to come to my cell phone too, and it's real easy for me to answer that at times because I get calls that are from all different types of numbers and so forth. But I might just have to change my habits there as well. With that. So interesting.
Yeah, we just have to be very, very cautious and really do screen. I did have one lady that when she was getting all of these phone calls, she said, I do this once in a while. She speaks fluent Russian. So she just started answering their questions in Russian, and pretty soon they hung up. So it was her little game that she played with them. But again, you shouldn't even have to do those kinds of things. So.
Exactly. Now, are you seeing much that is coming in the mail these days, or is most of it going down the lines of technology?
Well, it's both, and primarily because there's a great percentage of our senior group that aren't connected. A lot of us are, but there's a lot of people that their landline and their mail is their means of keeping in touch with people. And again, if you the check things where they would send you an authentic-looking check for $6,000 or $6,500, and you're supposed to deposit that check in your bank and then forward a sum on to a third party and keep the rest for yourself. And the checks look authentic, and they can pass through a bank without being detected in a lot of regards. And banks, of course, are more aware of what's going on too, so they are watching for these kinds of things. But what happens is that money it's a bad check, and you are then responsible for the money that you sent off to someone else. And and if you participate in any of those, especially the charity ones, where they send you a nickel in the mail, or they send you label stickers for this charity cause or whatever, and if you do feel compelled and respond to that, then you're on a mailing list that's shared. And that keeps the mail flow coming in. And if you participate in those, responding to those letters that come, you're just going to get more of them. And I had actually it was Andy Rooney, the old commentator, said if there was a return envelope in the mailer, he would just send it back to them. At least they had to pay double for mailing contacts. So that was one of his suggestions. He said just write on it, take me off your list, or even he got nastier than that. But if it's prepaid to send it back, send it back. Pretty soon they'll get tired of that.
Well, it's funny because you're mentioning all these things, and it's like, I get the nickels and the quarters, and I've got the labels, and all those things, and I keep the labels, and I throw out the rest, and stuff, and or the shirts. I mean, I'm thinking now of all the things that are sent, and all the different ways, and it's just difficult. And then when you add somebody who has dementia to boot on this, who's trying so hard to do the right things and still be involved, I mean, I can see where they could get taken so much easier. But I mean, this stuff happens to everybody at all different ages, and it just is. it's sad. It's just sad that we even have to be battling this kind of stuff. What are some do's and don'ts that you have for people that might be helpful? And can you just kind of summarize those?
Sure, we can do that quickly. The do not call registry is important, and to at least minimize some of that, and keep records of transactions and shred documents before throwing them away. So review your medical statements to, match it up with a calendar that, yes, I was at this clinic on this day and I saw this doctor. Just check that against the bills and things that come in to make sure that you're not getting double billed or billed for services that you didn't receive. So, and the same goes with your credit card statements and things like that. Review them, monitor them. Even on your phone, there's a thing called cramming where people can put a third-party charge on your account. It may be minimal, $3 to $5 a month, but it claims that you signed up for such and such service on your phone, and you didn't, but it shows up on your bill. So monitor those statements and then just shred and destroy. And, trust your instincts. I mean, we all grew up with, knowing what was right and wrong. So just be cautious about that. Never wire money, like we talked about. Never wire money before verifying who the money's going to. The MoneyGram and some of those transfer outlets have really gotten more helpful in the last few years, where they are questioning seniors or vulnerable people if they're sending money off in large amounts, asking them, do you know where this is going? And now the scam artists are just telling them, instead of going to Western Union or MoneyGram, to go buy a red dot card or a green dot card at basically it's a preloaded debit card and send off to them. So they're trying to find different ways. So, and resist high pressure. Some of these people that do the phone scams and things, they really try to wrap their arm around seniors and have all these causes, and it's for their best interest. And if you show some resistance to their offer, then they can get downright belligerent and saying, you need to do this to comply or you will be cut off from services and things like that. So just resist any high-pressure tactics that you might encounter. So those would be, some of the things to really watch out for.
Yeah, and I know with my friend's mom in Florida, they had gotten kind of nasty with her, and and then very intimidating. And this was a really strong lady, but again wants to do the right thing. And it's just so sad. We hear sometimes with even hired professionals who are giving care, sometimes there'll be issues with that as well. Do you run into much of that, or as far as scams, as far as companies go there?
We haven't gotten too many of those that I get notified on right away. But again, having people in your home, even if the companies are licensed and bonded and those types of things, you just have to be aware that, of not having personal information out and about, and having valuables where they can be easily accessed and those types of things. For the most part, our service providers are, doing the right thing. But again, just be aware and just be kind of street smart, I guess, is what I would encourage people to do.
Yeah, it is definitely a complicated little web of things. Are there some warning signs that caregivers should be aware of when they're caring for a loved one that's got some memory loss? Are there some things that they should be kind of red flagged and actively looking for?
Well, just being a good neighbor too. If you're visiting with someone and you see that they aren't taking care of themselves like they used to, or they're becoming more withdrawn, or you see that there's a lot of, like we talked about, the sweepstakes or charity mailers piling up, things like that. And if they're not doing, if they're changing very rapidly and in their way of, kind of managing their affairs and doing things, their resources may have been, tapped on these things that they've gotten involved in. So just be a good neighbor in some regards. And if you're a primary caregiver or relative and you see these things, or if they get very cautious about not answering the phone if you're there, or you're seeing a lot of checks made out to places that don't seem to be a little bit off the wall, or that they just start to act secretively. They don't want to let you know what's going on with their finances, or they don't want to let you know about their activities and things like that. It means that they may have been taken and scammed and are aware of it, but just feel that if they let people know, it's going to be one more step to losing some of their independence.
Yeah, it's a very scary process for people, because I think you're right. There's so much shame in these whole things. Like I said, when I was on my little dating thing, and I thought, oh, this guy is real, and then it came down to this getting a little fishy, and I thought, well, how dumb am I, to get roped in, and you start second guessing yourself, and it's just like, gosh, I've always made good decisions. What's wrong with me, And I really was beating myself up, and a girlfriend said, Lori, these guys are professionals.
Absolutely.
This is their job. They work hard to deceive, and most of us just don't have our radar up at that level. And it's sad that we have to, but they're, being scammed, you shouldn't feel shamed. I mean, you weren't the one that did anything wrong. It's the other guy. And there's a lot of, I think, parallels to dementia. There's so much shame attached to the disease where, no one signed up for this. This is something that just happened to them. But so much has to do with the ignorance and the, the uninformed, uneducated in terms of the disease at large. And that's something that hopefully will change over time and get better and easier. Now, if somebody has a complaint, what should they do?
Well, you can contact us here at the Better Business Bureau, and I can give you a number if you want to take that now.
Sure. We can give it out a couple of times. It's not going to hurt.
Yeah, if you have a concern or a complaint or just want to find out information, you can call us locally at 651-699. There's 4 ones in a row there. Or out of the area, our 800 number, 800-646-6222. And then, of course, online at www.bbb.org or just bbb.org.
Okay.
Oh, pardon me.
I was going to ask you on the 1-800 number, will that bring them to, will they be able to get to wherever they're located, or is that just Minnesota's number? I'm not exactly sure how you guys work.
Yeah, this would be for our direct Minnesota, North Dakota responsibility. And
okay.
There are, like I say, 115 bureaus throughout the U.S. and Canada. So if you are a snowbird, or if you have friends or neighbors or family in another state, they can contact their local Better Business Bureau, and you would be able to see that at the bbb.org site. you could enter in a zip code, and it would tell you where the nearest one was available. On complaint filing, everything has to be in writing. So if you have a complaint against a company or an issue, just a simple note or a letter that will be forwarded on to the party, the business, for their response, or they can be filed online. Just go to bbb.org, and then it'll pop up, file a complaint, and you can do it online. These need to be in writing so that the business is aware of who's making the statement, and so they know who to contact to work on resolution. So that would be our best contact numbers, our 800 number, and the local number.
Okay, wonderful. Now, is there a place where people can check on, let's say, lists for charities, and how all of that works? Do you guys track that?
Yes, we do. We do have the ability to let you know if you call in and say, I'm thinking about working with XYZ charity, and what we will do is give you the information as to, number one, are they registered and approved to do this solicitation, and then we can also give you some background and history as to what percentage of the money that is collected goes to actually support the cause that you want to support. So that's a very important feature too, because there are even a lot of old-line charities that may have high administrative or fundraising costs, and so you want to have at least 65 to 70% of the money that you spend going to support the cause, and not to just go for basic overhead of the charities. So you can contact us, give us a call, or you can go online and see that option at our website too, where you can check in. The thing about the charities is, there's a disaster around every corner, and we're getting solicited for this or that. And even when the Boston bombing was a recent one, where people set up these funds right away to start collecting money to support the injured people or whatever, but a lot of them are just bogus places to send money. So be very cautious on sound-alike charities, especially with all of our returning veterans, and high-pressure tactics, of course, that we need this money today, these people are starving. Those types of things, are just one of the red flags to watch out for. The emotional appeals, the hunger drives, and things like that, and requesting cash payments is another big red flag for some of the charity solicitations that are out there. If they're unable to provide you the information regarding their registration and those types of things, just see those as red flags. I myself personally support childhood cancer research. I have a granddaughter that's a survivor, and Heart Association. And even when I get calls from these organizations, Mr. Johnson, we thank you for your support, and can we count on you for the upcoming year? And I've chosen to just let the phone solicitor know that I make my contributions by check directly to the organization, because that way I know it's going to the cause I want to support, but also the money that's paid to the phone solicitors goes to my cause, and not to 30 or 40% going to the fundraisers. So even if you get those calls from people you support, my suggestion, I just do this, is pay directly. That way, I know that I'm getting the most bang for my buck.
Okay. Well, that's wonderful advice. there's just so many things to try to keep our hands in and figure out. Now, I do have somebody, it looks like, on the line from a 972 number, and if that person wants to ask a question, if you want to go ahead and push 1 on your phone, then I'll know. Some people will just call in and want to listen. So if you're from a 972 number and would like to ask a question to Gary, please go ahead and just push 1. I don't see any comments in our chat box at this time, but it's been so interesting talking with you and learning about how sad it is about the various types of scams, because we've covered quite a few of them. Kind of amazing how many are out there, but how badly we need to educate people in terms of being smart and protecting themselves, especially somebody with dementia. And I think a lot of times it's hard to protect people when we're so overwhelmed with all the other cares and pieces. Sometimes this stuff is forgotten about, and then all of a sudden it can turn into a crisis situation. I've seen it many times where it's happened and people just weren't aware of it, and then all of a sudden, someone reviews the bank account and really sees what's happening, and trying to stop it can be very frustrating. Like I said, I know my girlfriend whose mom is in California and she lives up here in Minnesota has had several conversations with the police and various aspects trying to put a stop to it, and they can't, because they keep switching their identities at the other end, and so it makes it difficult. I'm going to ask, there's another person who's popped up now, a 512 number. If you're interested in asking Gary a question or making a comment, please just go ahead and push 1. They may be on the line for the next segment as well there. So, Gary, do you want to give out people your contact information one more time, please?
I certainly will. It's our online is bbb.org. Very simple. Our phone number locally 651-699-1111, or our 800 number 800-646-6222. Also, on our senior web link on our website, we do have links to other good contact numbers, resources for seniors. We have the credit reporting agencies, the Attorney General's office, the Stop Junk Mail, just a number of good contacts you'll find on our resources for senior page.
Ooh, the Stop Junk Mail. I might have to hit that one up. The other one is we had talked about the credit scams and stuff out there, but are you seeing stuff with foreclosures too? I seem to be getting more and more mail on that kind of jazz too.
Yes, there's a lot of companies that are claiming to be able to help people in trouble with their either credit card situations or mortgage foreclosure things too. And again, be very cautious in entering into any agreements. You can check some of those things out with the Commerce Department at the state level before you would enter into any agreement to pay a fee up front to have them work through agreements, because typically working with the financial institution is the best way to do it, and paying fees to have some of these people claim that they can stop foreclosures and things is pretty much a bogus claim. Another thing that seniors there's some good options for reverse mortgages. There are some scammers out there too. So again, reverse mortgage in some cases is a very good financial tool. But again, before you would enter into any of those types of agreements, be very thorough in your investigation of just what your obligations are and what the company is there to do and support.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time and all the wonderful information that you shared with us today. I know you're a busy guy, and so we will let you go. But again, thank you so much. It was a very interesting conversation, and I appreciate your time, as well as I'm sure our listeners do as well.
Lori, I do appreciate the opportunity, and we will meet again, I'm sure.
Okay, thanks so much, Gary. Bye now. Before I roll into our next guest, I just want to mention a couple of housekeeping things. I want to talk about our last radio show, which was called Dementia, Action for Global Change, where I interviewed Mark Wortman, the executive director from Alzheimer's Disease International, which is a really great conversation about their recent conference in Taipei. And I think that's on the first half. The second half of the show, I think it's in about 51 minutes, is Kathy Greenblatt, who is an author and a sociologist and just a fabulous photographer who has written a new book called Love, Loss, and Laughter. There's also a video. If you go to the Alzheimer's Speaks.com, you can go over to the blog and just search Brilliant Video, and it's very interesting what it captures, the joy in the stages of life. And again, had just a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Kathy traveled to, I think it was 7 different countries taking these photos. And so, again, show was very interesting, and all of our shows, of course, are archived for your convenience. Our next show coming up will be on May 28th, and we're going to be talking with Music First about a new app that Coral Health has, which is all research-based that can help us utilize music to shift our moods and to remove those reactions that we like to call behaviors. And then the second half of that show will be Janet Calthorpe with us, and she brings activities into the home, which is a unique venue. I also want to just mention that we had our last Dementia Chat, and that is recorded. You can access that either through the blog or the website, or even on Facebook. You can go to Dementia Chats and friend us there, and the link will be there. But we had a great conversation with Harry and Michael talking about best practices for communicating. We had a real interesting conversation on the test questions that both professionals and families use to just kind of see how their loved one or their client is doing. And I think it'll give you some good tips on how to phrase those questions and are they really relevant or not. We also talked about eating habits and how those can change, as well as body temperature. And so our next Dementia Chats will be at our regular scheduled time, which is 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, and noon Pacific time on May 28th. And I can't believe the end of May is almost here already. Let's see, what else do we have? Again, if you're looking for an Alzheimer's Association to connect with, please go to Alzheimer's Disease International. They are the association of associations, and so you can pretty much find the closest one in the world to you. And if you're interested or in the need of looking for a clinical trial, just go to www.Alzheimer's Studies, and you will be able to find out some information on some clinical studies. And if you're just chiming in right now, again, we would love it if you would help us spread the word about Alzheimer's Speaks Radio. This is kind of a global effort and a collaboration amongst all of us. So by sharing it on your Facebook page and tweeting it, emailing it, embedding it, shooting it to your social media force, you are just helping raise awareness, which is really what we're all about here. And again, if you want to join the conversation, we would love to have you ask a question or make a comment, and you can do that utilizing the chat box, or you can call in live at 714-364-4757. That's 714-364-4757. And if you have a question, you have to push 1 so that you'll get into my waiting room and I'll know that you're here. So let's go ahead and get on to our next guest. I'm very excited to have her with us, and it's kind of funny. I connected with this woman via her son, Daniel, which was so interesting how you meet people through social media. Nancy Smiler Levinson is an award-winning author of 28 books for young readers, written for a span of ages, including fiction, historical fiction, nonfiction, and biographies. She was born in Minneapolis and grew up there, and then graduated from the University of Minnesota with a major in journalism and minors in English and history. Nancy had a short-lived stint in the newspaper industry as a reporter, and then she started writing for children. And this joyful work came from her love of literature and often reading to her 2 sons when they were younger. She met her husband in New York, where he was an internist specializing in cardiology, and then they moved to Los Angeles, where they lived for nearly 50 years. Her new book, Moments of Dawn, a poetic memoir of love and family, affliction and affirmation, is her first book she's ever written for an adult audience. And this is going to be our topic of discussion today. And it is an absolutely gorgeous book, very moving, so poignant, and really talks about some deep, deep emotions wrapped in life as we live. So welcome, Nancy. How are you today?
I'm fine. Nice to speak with you, and nice to have the invitation to discuss this.
Well, I was reading your book, and it's so moving, and you talk so openly about so many different variables. It was just absolutely amazing. I'm going to read just a portion of one of your pages here. It says, I grieve for many years I have left, preparing to live without you. Your death while you still breathe. I mourn all that I have taken for granted, the loss of our everyday occurrences, the mundane, the blissful, the disagreements, the frustrations, the fisticuffs. I admit to having felt very deserving, now bolts of reality. Who of us is prepared for such an end? And that's just a piece of one of your beautiful, beautiful writings in this book. Like I said, I think you just write so honestly. You talk about the whole range of emotions. You don't just go down the rabbit hole, but you fly up to the sky and you spin around in dismay, which is how we all live. But I think it's rarely how we talk about life. I find so many times people aren't really honest with the whole picture, and they're embarrassed of certain emotions or thoughts. And I thank you so much for your honesty, because I really think that it helps so many think it's okay and it makes it safe to have those.
Well, thank you. I do believe that in writing, it's important to be authentic. So, this is where this came from. But also, I had the time, unfortunately, but I began writing this many years ago and wrote as I was living it, so that I had very specific scenes in my mind just at the moment, so that I was able to capture the feelings or the situations and then the feelings about them very fresh in my mind as I moved along on the computer. And I just think that, of course, the result of that was a lot of repetition when it came to the end of the book, or where I decided to end it. I think that there was a great deal of repetition that had to be edited and deleted to, make it a smoother and better read from start to finish. So that was the way that kind of went, and I think that was a help in bringing out each emotion as we went along.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things I think we should probably start, because I could just sit here and keep reading different pieces of your book because I just think it's so powerful.
Oh, kind of.
But can you tell us a little bit about some, back history here? When did you realize that your husband had Alzheimer's disease? How old was he, and what were some of the signs that you were seeing?
Okay, well, I would say that I'm really going back maybe 12 years, and maybe 13 even, but with little red flags, but that were very few and far apart. And in some way, I would maybe go into denial myself, even though my gut feeling would tell me that certain things, and I can be specific about those in a moment, that certain things didn't feel right, but I would try to brush over it myself. I would think, my husband is very busy reading the newspaper. He's not paying attention. And then I understand, of course, having read a great deal and learned a great deal since over the recent years, that the situation begins before there really are any symptoms. But I would say that I can even pinpoint the very first time that I was kind of perplexed. I have a number of, throughout, because I've been writing for so long, I have a number of editors over the years at different publishing houses, and they would be often discussed at the dinner table or wherever we were, and just often by using their names. And my husband, when I would mention one name or another, he would say, "Who are you talking about? What Virginia is that?" And he had known, he'd even, for instance, met this Virginia, and we had dinner together and so forth. And so at that point, I kind of said, well, maybe I have so many girls, women's names. I've got friends in one area and women's names in a publishing area and so forth. So it was just that he was already a little bit confused. And then the tip-off, when I had to really speak out loud, I heard him often. He began to repeat questions, and the very specific thing was that he was retired, and the two of us were at home, and our sons were out of the house and working. And he would be on the phone and ask them a question. Something like, what are your plans for the weekend? And then he would, a minute later, ask the same thing. Incidentally, the repetition of questions, interestingly, if we talk about the brain, they were always repeated in exactly the same way with the exact words. So I don't know what that means neurologically, but I just found that very interesting. But at first I thought, well, he loves to talk to his sons, and he will kind of keep the conversation going so they won't hang up and say, hey, Dad, I've got to get out and do something. And then finally I asked one of my sons who lives with me, not with me, but lives in the same city here, Los Angeles. I said, have you noticed that Dad is repeating questions? And he said, Mom, I've been meaning to talk about that with you. And then we called our other son, who found that very difficult. Came out to visit and stayed with us for several days and affirmed this. And it was a difficult acceptance on our part, and the three of us decided we must go ahead immediately, be proactive, be a team, and be absolutely together. All decisions should be made, even though we would have to make some compromises. And those, I think, were the very specific things. And I notice that now with other people. I can tell very quickly. Someone will meet me and say, "Oh, how are your sons? What are they doing these days?" And then I will answer, and then a moment later, exactly the same question, and a little red flag goes up to B at that point.
Okay. Interesting.
A long answer, I know.
No. That's okay. It's it's a fascinating disease, and I hear people all the time say, it's not the same caring for a parent as it is for a spouse. There's huge difference, and I think we all, on an intellectual basis, understand that. But it's hard to put into words. You've got written here on one of your pages, how can I tend to you when you won't allow it? Do I love only the person you were and struggle to hold on during moments of tranquility? We hold each other in bed in the morning. We exchange no words. Your eyes are closed. Your body is warm and feels strong. I can pretend it is what we once had. And it just brings tears to my eyes reading that. That is the difference. That is the difference. It's your everything, and that's, with me, my mom and I are very close, and always have been. But I don't cuddle with her in bed. I don't rely on her to, for every interaction in my life. I had my own life as well. Yeah. And to lose that merging, especially over a 50-year period, I just can't imagine the levels of loss. I know what it's like for a child, and I know what it's like for me, because everybody attacks this different. But when you've got a loving, close relationship that is now shifted, it's just, your book is so powerful, what you say and how you say it. And I think it will help a lot of couples maybe come to peace, knowing that they're not alone in their struggles, in their emotions, and how do you get through all of this? How do you frame it? How do you be safe with it? And I would think that safety is a big piece of your loss. Would that be correct?
I think so. I guess I would have to say that when something like this occurs and you can't fix it, coming to accept that you can't fix it. There's really nothing you can do except some kind of palliative activities or care. One has to find something else to hang on to, and I believe that for me, turning to words, poetry, and prayer, because I feel that prayer it really is poetic. And just when you're up against a stone wall, I find that's just one of the very, very few avenues to turn towards. And we belong to a synagogue, and we were there. My husband and I were there always when our children were in Sunday school and through their bar mitzvahs. And then there are periods when I didn't go very often, but I was just very glad to find this as something that was very supportive of me, really found, well, I don't know exactly how to call it, but just something there for me to stand on and to get support and love from people who really cared. And there are other people. One of the women whom I met in a support group, we have a rather large congregation, and I became very close with her in our support group, and then after a few months I found out that she's a member of our synagogue, and so we have become even closer yet. And it was exactly the situation with her husband, and so we really could resonate with each other. The one aspect is that the specificity, I hope I got that word right, of being not just a situation with a spouse that one is living with all the time, but the situation for a woman having losing a husband. Now, I do believe in empowerment of women, that they should learn financial matters, but I have to raise my hand and confess that numbers were never my strong point. I just really like working with 26 letters and shifting them around, but my husband always took care of all the finances, and I stayed away from it. I mean, I knew how to write checks, but I had this is an added difficulty, aside from losing the love of one's life and everything that went with it, was having to take on this extra, to me, I have to admit, odious tasks. And my sons were extremely helpful all along with everything, but they know business and law, and they had to teach me. And we went into all kinds of different role reversals. They got filing cabinets for me and really set the whole thing up for me as if it were an office, and set up file folders, and there was a lot to deal with, insurance and just maintenance. So that was an added thing that really was, I just wish that would go away. But that was fixable. I mean, in the fact that I could begin to learn, and I have to do it. I had no other choice. And so, I made mistakes, and then my sons would go into a little bit of damage control, but, I've managed. I haven't done anything really awful, and I'm much better with this now and realize that it has to be done.
Yeah, it's just an interesting disease, and the twists and turns and what we have to take on and do differently and change routines. One of the things that you write about was not being able to travel anymore, and if I remember correctly, it had to do with, did you end up missing a son's wedding?
I'm sorry, did I end up with...
Did you guys end up missing a son's wedding, maybe? I'm trying to...
We, when my son became engaged, we knew my husband was declining quite a bit at that point. And if there were to be a large wedding at the bride's home, which was in Denver, that would take many months of planning. And the family decided that my husband would be declined further at that point. So what happened was that a rather quickly planned and very small family wedding was planned and went forth, just so that my husband could be there. And then even at that point, we went to a different city, and he became very disoriented and anxious, being somewhere where he had not been before, and even got confused in the hotel and didn't know what city we were in. But the wedding came off very beautifully. The bride's, my daughter-in-law's parents put together a really very beautiful ceremony and dinner after, and then down the road, several months later, the bride and groom, the kids who wanted a real party for their friends and so forth, they arranged that party, and we weren't. My husband and I couldn't go because by that time it was. So we just he never knew. So that was the way that turned out. But that again was just a change of having to do something different than planned. I mean, we plan things, and we have to shift.
Then it changes. Well, you write so honestly. You say, "You and I sit home. I act adult but feel jealous and a pouting child. As we thought, you cannot travel anymore." Later, Matt tells me that Dana's father expressed sorrow in his speech that Dan's parents could not be there due to health issues. Matt confessed, hearing that caused tears in his eyes. "My silent toast. May all those celebrating dance, sing, and raise their glasses high. May the seeds and flowers of their love continue to grow." That had to be so difficult to not be able to be there, even though you were at the smaller one. You as an individual, did you feel or do you feel through this process that you've lost a piece of yourself in who you want to be? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I did for a long time, but it was accepting is a process. The changes continue. I mean, it's not like some situation like a house that's burned down or some other kind of a disaster where it's happened once and then you have to put the pieces back together. This, of course, is a continuing worsening, and so it's a process of as the decline happens, one has. Well, speaking in my situation, but I had to continue to accept on different levels and deal with each situation and not dwell. I mean, there were tears, believe me, but not dwell. I mean, there have to be times to pick oneself up and and wait for the next shoe to drop. So it was sad, but the writing of it helped me. I am a writer, and so I mean I can even go back to just add this note is that the fact that I could sit down and write this puts it into kind of a different perspective, and that I'm using it. I'm trying to express this. I hate to say the cliche, turning pain or ache into art, but it is a way of. I mean, I think I was able to have this as an outlet for me and something I could deal with. I think that was. I feel kind of had that. So that it really kind of. I mean, one particular. There are a lot of different scenes. I'm not just writing in the book. I'm just not writing how I felt, how something happened. But I mean, in the way that I write always, I try to do so in scenes so that the situation is more alive, and hopefully the reader will feel that he or she is right there, hearing the dialogue and how, looking for the lost car, things like this.
You do a really nice job using little words, really, to describe those scenes, and they're so powerful. Here's another one. It says, "On seemingly thoughts from my support group, we have no partner, no conversation, no love, no appreciation, no life of our own." And those are things I think that do go through people's minds when they're caring. But what you had talked about in terms of this is, and I know that I did, in my own caring for my father with brain cancer, and who's since passed, and my mom, was I would not give that up, though. Even though when I was complaining and feeling sorry for myself, I personally had those thoughts, but I couldn't do it differently, and I wouldn't have chosen to do it. Or maybe a little bit differently, at times I would say that I've learned some things, but that I would never walk away from giving the care and giving the love. And what I found for me, and I don't know if you found this, but I found new levels of love that I didn't know existed.
That's a good point to bring out, and I did. One was to be able to continue to write, and the other was our memories. But I have to say that there were two sides to that coin. Whereas people would often suggest to me, "Oh, think of all the wonderful things you've had and done." I could, and that would be pleasing. However, that would make me sad because they're gone and I'll never have them again. So I had to take on. I think I've been some in this way with things that are small, that were or that were small in comparison to, like, saying, going to a big dinner dance, where my husband was a physician, and there would be an annual big dinner dance where we would get dressed up and look very gorgeous. That ending up going to a late afternoon movie and going out, very often with one other particular couple whose husband was also beginning to decline. We would meet them often for a 4 or 5 o'clock movie, and then get them to eat after. And the two doctors would have pretty much the same conversation. But this was a wonderful event. I mean, it became, when I'd get up in the morning and say, "Oh, good, we're meeting with," think to myself, "Oh, we're good, we're meeting with those friends at the theater," and this in the midst of, I guess in the scheme of all of the events of life that we did, such as traveling and going through the Panama Canal, which he had always wanted to do, this was a very small thing, but it became big. I built it up, not intentionally, but it was just, that's the way it was. And so we found fun and enjoyment in something very small, which came out to be a very larger enjoyment and a new way of having fun and love.
Mm-hmm.
So,
can you? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nancy.
Oh no. Okay. I don't want to go on so long with each question. There's so much I could talk about, but
there really is. Because you're talking about your whole life. You're talking about 24 hours a day, and how do you process things. One of the things I would like you to talk about is how did you manage during those years at home with your husband, activities or just going out and trying to keep things as normal as possible.
I'm glad you asked that question, because this was a major part of this whole situation was to keep us. I have to pat myself on the back a little bit, if you don't mind, to say that I made up my mind that we will just keep going and do everything possible that we can, to go out often, to go to the theater, and I've going into museums. He was never thrilled about strolling through museums, but with me, he was retired, of course, obviously by then, and I made a big deal out of it, and we would go to a museum, and he seemed to enjoy it, and stay longer than he used to. He was always kind of eager to move into the next room, or leave and go eat. So we would do things like this. He was never a big opera lover, but I took him to the opera, the music center, and he was just glad to be out among people and of course to be with me because he was dependent on me. We did activities at home. We played Scrabble. We got into a little habit of watching Jeopardy every night after dinner. It was just, what he was taking in from the show. It didn't matter. We were just sitting there together on the sofa. We got my sons were helpful in looking up and finding, as the decline happened, activities that would be appropriate for that stage. And so we one was getting jigsaw puzzles, and then I guess the first jigsaw puzzle that we started to work with had too many pieces. So we went down to smaller and a smaller amount and larger pieces. I kept up traditional things that we had done, special things on birthdays, anniversaries, and for Valentine's Day. I would always, it just became, once our kids left home, I made a little special Valentine's dinner for us each year with a fancy new dish and candlelight and candles floating in water and using the china dishes, and it had been a fun thing for many years. And after a while, he didn't remember it, and I said, "I'll just keep doing this," and it was good. It just that's the way I thought that it needed to be, and I think it worked. Maybe for him, I think in the moment, that was living in the now for him, and it made me feel as if we were continuing and taking everything that we could. So I'm trying to think of any, other kinds of activities we did. I mean, we went walking a little bit more. We had a dog, and there were a lot of going out to eat often was very, we continued with that, and we had people over for dinner or brunch, and our kids were we would go to my sons were really wonderful about coming over, and the one, Daniel from out of town, would come in, and they would do very special things, dad and son events, going to Dodger Stadium, taking him for miniature golf, things that he really could do and just was happy doing, and that was just a great help to me. That would give me, an afternoon. We also did a lot of family things together when the four of us would be together, and that was just great. My husband was just extremely happy with the four of us being together. And then when Daniel got married, then we had five, and that was terrific. When we had a Thanksgiving dinner together, and we did the whole thing. So we really did just keep going. And I also, one last note I need to say is that I took him to the synagogue often for Shabbat services and for every event, a Hanukkah party, a Purim party, for holiday events, and he really didn't taken the situation itself or the holiday itself, but he was very glad to be there. He liked the music a great deal, as many people with dementia. Music is just a top thing to deal with,
yep.
And or to play or to keep going, or going to musical events, putting music on at home. And he was happy being in a social situation. There were a lot of people around. He really couldn't make much conversation, but he was very glad to have people there, and at least people saying hi and how are you, and it just and there was food. There was a lot of eating. This is another little symptom of that many Alzheimer's patients have, going through the cupboards and looking for magic things to reappear that were not there to begin with.
Yeah, my mom used to. She didn't go through the cupboard so much, and a lot of people will say that they lose their appetite as well. So I mean, it just depends on the individual. But when we would take
there are some who do, and mine enjoyed eating, and he loved sweets. And I used to be, kind of on his case when there was too much dessert. But at this point, I said, listen, if he enjoys that, it's okay, and I'd let go.
Yep.
Yeah,
me too.
Yeah.
When I take my mom out, we had to stop going to a buffet line because she would start multiple plates, and she would put some food on it, and then she'd put it down, and then she'd eyeball something else and scurry to that. Or we'd have these huge picnics in the backyard, and she would have eaten, and then we cleared her plate away. Mm-hmm. And then somebody would sit down next to her with food, and then she would get upset. Well, why can't she have any? And so we had to do things a little bit different because we took away her cues that she knew she ate. Mm-hmm. And so it's just interesting how things have to be done, or in a restaurant, off a menu, how we ordered changed, because I found that just got so frustrating. And so instead of asking her what she wanted, and she would be looking at the menu, she couldn't comprehend the menu. And so a lot of people will say nowadays that they just go to the same old restaurant, they get the same old thing because it's comfortable, but it's empowering.
And familiar. Yes.
But it's empowering to the person with the disease to still feel independent. And with my mom, what I ended up doing with her was I would make a comment like, I can't decide what I want to eat, so would you want to share if we get this and that? And that way we had two things to pick from. That was a good idea. Because sometimes she would order something, then she would get, I didn't order that. And you can't argue, And so I found if I approached it that she was helping me with my indecision, which, was true because I love a little bit of everything anyways. So it always worked out really well that way, that we just shared, and it was more comfortable, and, that I could even cut stuff up because I was cutting my stuff up. And then, it worked really, really well for a very, very long time with us. But
a little an aside on the food business, my husband would, as the years went on, would just like to help me, and so I would have him help. I said, would you like to make brownies together? And he would never ever in a million years have done anything like that before, but he was so happy to do that. It was very simple. We would just use a mix, and I'd say break the eggs, and he would be very happy with the fruits of his labor after, or the chocolate, I should say, the chocolate of his labors after. So that was something, and even making, helping with the dinner would take a lot longer for me. To have to stop and explain, and here, chop this, and they'll chop these a little bit smaller, and but that also was an activity for a while, and something that he really enjoyed. I must say that I did take him to a daycare place for quite some time, and he enjoyed that. It was a little bit strange for him at first, but it was an excellent place in Los Angeles, Santa Monica, and he came to enjoy that very much. And we started out a couple days a week, and then we ended up 5 days a week. And by that time, I had someone help in the driving because I had an illness myself, and I was able to, even though he resisted, he was in denial all the time. I should mention that. And when I would have someone come to stay or help, so that I could go out in an afternoon, and he would say, "I don't want a baby." He would be very angry. He said, "I don't need a babysitter. I don't need a babysitter." And once I became ill, we would say, "This is a help for me," and this was acceptable to him. So there are ways of tweaking things, and one has to be working at this quite often. It's not,
it can be flow real easy, and just like anything else, our life changes. You have one comment in here where you say, "I admit to gnawing anger that a once intelligent man now says such stupid things. The facilitator confronts me. Might I still harbor a degree of denial? I bite my lips, maybe so. Does complete acceptance exist?" And what a great question to pose. How many hurdles must we leap? You ask. How complex, do we have to navigate through this? It's amazing because there's so many twists and turns and variables of loss and even for you just to say so honestly, that he says stupid things now, and this isn't meant, for anyone with dementia listening to hurt, but it is a change in terms of personality and how things are played between the two of you, and how do you deal with that? How do you navigate? How do you get through that? And it sounds like you've done a great job, and I think writing can be so healing, and I wish more people would do it.
It was, and I will sing the praises of support groups. I just found those extremely helpful on many layers, and I know that men are very reluctant to go to support groups or go to a psychologist. Some may go to a psychologist and just talk one-on-one, but they're very reluctant to go to groups and share. They just don't talk that way. I mean, I shouldn't be generalizing, but I mean, over the years and all the people I've met and the various places I've been to and the conferences and the lectures and so forth, men generally do not. And so I'm just putting out the word, hey, guys out there, if you need some support or you need suggestions on how to deal with very specific things. I mean, a very small thing can become very difficult, such as some patients don't want to have a shower. Well, you learn. You listen to the facilitator or some of the other people in the group tell you how they do it. Well, I don't want to leave it that way, but I mean, what I'm saying is that, like, a very good idea is to begin helping a shower from the feet up and to move up so that there is not the shock of suddenly water coming down on your head. Or that was a very good suggestion, just one idea that can come from either books, but mostly it's very helpful to be in the support group. So yeah. I'm pushing that.
Yeah, and there's a group now, and there's several. There's over 100 of them now in the U.S. called Memory Cafes that are just absolutely wonderful. And if anyone is interested in learning more about those, you can reach out to me. I've got a section on the website with that. We're trying to get them listed in the resource directory. So if anyone has a memory cafe, which is where a person with early memory loss and their loved one goes for support, and I hate to even call it a support group because really it's a group of friends that gets together and does a lot of laughing and shares experiences and talks openly, and most of them stay together the whole time. They don't separate.
Exactly. It is. I'm glad you mentioned that because it becomes a sharing thing rather than just. That's an added layer to yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And everybody chimes in. If somebody's struggling, it's not just the caregivers giving advice. It's the people with dementia going, well, this is how it feels to me, and this is what it's like, or this is what we've done, and it's quite interesting. You also tackle in your book that about the motor vehicle, Department of Motor Vehicles letter arrives, which states your license is revoked as of January of 2007. And that's just such a touchy topic. And, it talks about, that it gives them directives if they want to make an appointment for a hearing and, basically, what it says, and it notes in the box the word dementia. And it says, who says I'm demented? This is unacceptable, a mistake. Who turned me in, as if you're a criminal. And, that's a pretty common, I think, reaction. And most of us would have that if we got that letter in the mail. How is that to navigate through? I mean, if people read this, they can find out. But can you talk about that? Because that's got to be.
And that is a really one of the most difficult situations. That obviously takes away the independence of the person, and especially if it's, I think if it's a parent and can still have, I think it would be different with a parent, but with a spouse, I would be there all the time to drive. My sons and I were hoping that it would be a kind of a smooth transition, little by little. I would try to do that. I had different suggestions on how to say, "Oh, I'll drive now. Look at you drove me all these years. Now you sit back and rest and take it easy, and I'll drive." And sometimes that would work, and sometimes that would bring about anger. And he wouldn't let go, and we finally had to, as you said, every case is totally different. There are people who just are very open to just understanding, I can't drive anymore, or if there's an accident, God forbid, because, there's the liability involved in that, and that was something, with one of my sons being an attorney, that was a very big issue. But he would not, and we had to find out what to do in order to have it taken away, because he would sometimes just go out or we had the keys, and he would try to put another key into the door of the automobile, and so we had to go the difficult way of having the doctor write to the DMV and say he believes that there is he has a patient who should not be driving anymore, showing signs of, and they call it early. I'm losing the phrase.
Mild cognitive impairment.
Yeah.
Maybe there's so many different phrases that can be used.
Yeah, I know they do, a lot of euphemisms. And so, hence, this letter came and brings it up to the point where you were speaking, and he got this letter. And it offered him the chance to confront them, and gave him a couple of weeks to call and make an appointment if he would like to refute this. And he got a hold of a manual a driving manual, which you have to read in order to. He thought he had to take the test again, and this was very heartbreaking for me. And of course, he couldn't concentrate. He would look at it and try to read it, and he really couldn't, focus on it. And he would keep picking it up and looking. And I kept hoping that he would just forget about this deadline to call in and make an appointment. And somehow he did not forget that. I don't know or why, but he did call and make an appointment, and so I had to drive him, and he had a little interview with someone from the DMV, and, it became clear at that point. And somehow a letter came to say this was final, and I think even by that time, a number of weeks go by, and it sort of just faded away. It just kind of, his idea of still wanting to drive, it just faded away. But everything up to that point was very hard and sad for our family. But we had to go to the last resort.
Mm-hmm. You speak of many transitions in the book, which are from daycare and so forth. I mean, it's just multiple scenarios. And I really highly recommend that people read your book, Moments of Dawn, a poetic memoir of love, family, affliction, and affirmation, because it's just beautifully done and so honest, and I think will resonate with people in terms of, I'm a firm believer that you have to feel your emotions to push through them. We can't just stuff them away. They don't go away. And
right,
I think
they
this
don't.
book will help you process those
and make them into something else. But I just thought that that I might mention that the book is available for a Kindle or an iPad through Amazon, and it's just $5.99 if it's purchased through that. And one can get to that either by going directly to my website, which is my www.Nancy Smiler Levinson, LEVINSON.com, or go directly to type in Moments of Dawn Levinson, or the publisher Conflux Press, CONFLUX Press, all in one word, at gmail.com. And so it's available that way, and I have print copies here. If anybody can get in touch with you, then I can, and a check can be sent to me. I'm happy to mail a copy out.
Okay, wonderful.
Probably the easiest thing for listeners might be to get that, and I think that also the Kindle and the iPad, I think they can also get that read it on the computer. I'm not very savvy about technology or computers, but I understand that can be also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I thank you so much for your time today, Nancy. I'm so glad that your son connected us and that I found out about
I am too. That was
book.
Such an interesting situation that when he called me up and said, guess what? Lori lives nearby. And I understand you had coffee together so that you could discuss various aspects.
Yeah. So nice man, and I really appreciate him connecting us.
Yes, I thank you so much for the invitation to speak with you and to speak with the audience, and I surely hope I send all my best wishes to all those who are caregivers, and we are not alone.
No, we're not. That's for sure. Well, thank you again, Nancy, and you enjoy your week.
Thank you so much, Lori.
Okay, bye now.
Okay, bye-bye.
I do want to remind people of the upcoming Dementia Chat on May 28th, and that will be 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central and noon Pacific time. Our next show for the radio will be on the 28th as well. That'll be in the morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central time, where we're going to have Music First, which is a brand new app of Choral Health, and then we're going to talk about activities for that you can do in the home. Again, if you are looking for an Alzheimer's Association, feel free to go to Alzheimer's Disease International at www.alz.co.uk. And if you're interested in a clinical trial, check out alzheimersstudies.com. And again, have a wonderful, wonderful week. And remember, life with dementia is about progress, not perfection. Keep in mind the 3 things that you need to focus on when dealing with someone with dementia. And this applies actually for everyone. Are they safe? Are they happy? Are they pain-free? Have a wonderful week. We'll talk soon.
Hi, everyone. This is Meredith from the Senior Fitness with Meredith podcast, where I discuss all things for seniors, from fitness, your health and wellness journeys, how to be all over strong and beyond. I also have my mini podcast called Motivation with Meredith. It's a great, quick motivational pick-me-up for your days. Join me, listen now, search for Senior Fitness with Meredith on your favorite podcast platform.